Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everybody in between, welcome to another episode of the Chaps Chat Cats, a part of the Hoops Crew Media Network. My name is Jake, and I'm joined in the virtual studio by two lads who are a little bit hairy and a little bit scary. They are Sambo and Johnny. How are we, Chaps?
I'm a little bit chubby and a little bit hairy.
Do you remember that? Do you remember that YouTube video of the little guinea pig?
I decided not to finish it.
Yeah.
How are we, boys?
Good. Feeling buoyed by
Absolutely.
double wins.
Double wins. Make life easy.
Just took it to my veins.
It's true. It's very true.
WWs.
On the show.
Double W's.
That's right.
Sweet.
Couple of WWs.
Dubs.
Sweet Vicks. On the show tonight, the AFL men tame the Lions. Cue the comments. What's AFLM? In the qualifying final, the AFL women beat the Bombers. So as the chap said, sweet double Vicks. We've got them on board, on deck. And then for the Patreon subscribers, we'll talk about some extra notes and we'll also look ahead. Hawks v Crows this weekend. The Cats will play the winner of that game. We'll have some early thoughts on that. We'll also have some early thoughts on the AFLW Round 5 clash between the Cats and the Tigers. So if you want that part of the show, go on over, get on your bike, start your 7-day free trial on the Hoops Crew Patreon. Chaps, before we get into the public part of the show, we have to say, and not only do we don't even have to say, we want to say, an enormous Hoops Crew Media Network thank you to the Media Network sponsor, Cyril Cook Florist. You can visit them. www.cyrilcookflorist.com.au. You can phone them up on 035 222 2244. You can visit them if you are so inclined at Shop 1211 Leather Street in Breakwater. And remember, when you shop with Cyril Cook Florist online, use the voucher code GOCATS at checkout and you get 20% off your next purchase. That's as simple as it needs to be to knock 20% off your next purchase with Cyril Cook. GOCATS in the voucher field at checkout gets you that discount. All right, let's jump into the show because we've got a lot to cover. We're going to start. We're doing this a bit back to front. Actually, we're not. Colin's just got the banners back to front. Jesus, Colin. We're going to start with the AFL men's game.
Okay.
The qualifying final against the Lions.
I understand it. See,
Geelong's
it's not hard
finals
to
campaign
understand,
opened.
Colin.
It is.
Yeah,
He talks
what happened
only
on
in
Friday
gibberish.
night versus what happened on Sunday, you know? Geelong's finals campaign opened against a familiar opponent as the Cats faced off at the MCG against the reigning premier, Brisbane Lions. The Lions got off to a hot start with the opening goal to Charlie Cameron just a few minutes in before Geelong assumed control of the match, slotting 4 of the game's next 6 goals to lead 30-18 at quarter time. Brisbane pulled 2 majors back early in the second term, but the Cats were swarming over their opponents and soon gashed the match open with 4 goals in 5 minutes from the boots of De Koning, Bowes, Dempsey, and Stewart. There were shenanigans afoot as Cam Rayner was gift-wrapped 2 goals after suckering the umpiring group into awarding back-to-back frees in the goal square. That made Geelong's lead just 15 points at the main break. If the Lions assumed the match would turn their way on the back of that chaos, they were to be proved extremely wrong. Across the second half, the Cats got pissy and unfurled an unparalleled level of pressure, ferocity, and ball movement to kick 6 of the game's next 8 goals to lead by nearly 40 points midway through the final term. There were a couple of junk time goals from the Lions that were cancelled out by majors to Tom Atkins and Brad Close as the Cats signed their work with a flourish, bullying their opponent from last year's prelim final 16-16, 112 to 11-8, 74. It should probably have been a far greater margin than the 38 points it was. Geelong, the far better team at far more positions for far more of the night. There was talk of all the soft draw nonsense. Johnny, was this a massive warning shot fired to the rest of the competition?
I think so. I really do think so. I think this was a big warning to the rest of these finalists, saying, we've had the easy run. We haven't had to push ourselves to the extreme limit. We saw when we played the Tigers, they did what needed to be done early on and then went into cruise control and just maintained a steady lead and didn't do anything crazy, and able to do that throughout the last few weeks. Yes, easy draw. It happens. It's not something that's in control, but the Cats took full advantage of that. And then when we were ready to go up against this Lions that had a tougher run, a bit battered up, yes. But in finals, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If you decide you put out, you decide that should win you games. And the Cats, this so-called easy last few games really paid off. Like, the Cats looked fresh. They looked prepared. They looked ready. They looked laser focused. And it was probably some of the best football I've seen the team play all year. It's like they've been just building. They haven't peaked at the wrong time like other teams. They haven't dipped in anything. They've been pretty much throughout the entire season, very now I lost that word.
Consistent.
Should make one up.
Consistent.
Make one. There we go.
Extremely consistent throughout the year. Yeah, we lost twice to the Lions. We lost twice to the Giants. Lost some Saints, but I think throughout the entire away season, we're just that so consistent. Everyone sort of forgot about us. And then in this first finals game, we just blew the Lions out of the water, and they had really no answer to the Cats. And yeah, we may have. A lot of people might go, "Oh, now you've shown your hand to what you can do." It's like, does it really matter? At the moment, I can't see any other. From what I saw in the other games, I can't really see another team challenging the Cats all too much. And I think this is just a bit of a warning shot to everyone off, going, this is what we've got. What's your best? We'll take it and we'll beat it down and drag you to places where you don't want to go, like we did with the Lions.
Fair to say, your confidence seems up, John. If we had to pick a direction, down or up your confidence, I'd say up seems to be the direction.
Blossoms bloom.
Yeah, I've decided stuff being pessimistic, stuff being if this happens, I'm just going nuts. Stuff that I think we can win this. I think we're in the prime seat to go all the way. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go into every single game that we've got left thinking we're going to win it. And I don't care what people tell me. Stuff it. We're the best. When it matters the most, the Cats will be the best at the end of the day.
Not sure if Jake's just contemplating your thoughts.
No, I think it's a fair thing to feel.
You've frozen.
No idea if you guys can hear me or not.
I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. You've just your visuals are frozen.
Ground control to Major Tom.
I don't know if you can hear us.
Perfect.
Okay, cool.
No, I can hear you. What would be perfect is if my face is frozen in the most embarrassing face possible.
No, it was a very deep in thought.
I can hear you. Okay. I don't know why, but the internet the last few weeks has been fantastic. The picture has been clear. Tonight on the qualifying final recap episode, it's just decided to shit itself. So, no, I agree with all that, Johnny. I think there's so much reason to be confident. And I think if you sort of are pessimistic during this Cats run, and, there's still, people who are those, I know we've made so many prelims, but what does it all really matter I'm sorry, but it would be, it's like being gifted $1 billion and then spending your life going, but it could have been $2 billion. Just enjoy the $1 billion. Just enjoy the ride. For God's sake, can you imagine, talking to a North Melbourne fan in this way and going, I know we've made prelims. It's pretty good, but we've lost a few. No, I totally agree. Enjoy the ride. Grip it and rip it. Sambo.
Radical, dude.
This wasn't a game. Grip it and rip it, bro. Hang loose. Put a few shuckers in there. This wasn't a game, Sambo, where it was just like 1 or 2 stars. Like, I know during the year there's been patches where it's been like, holy shit, Jeremy Cameron, he's going to kick 100 goals. He's kicking 6 every week. There's been patches where it's been Bailey Smith or Max Holmes or whoever it might be in that particular week, where it's like the Cats are built around this player. This was a night where it was a team performance. Like, it was such a good spread, right?
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's been really funny doing. You don't want to put the cart before the horse or the horse before the cart, or whichever way you're not meant to do it. You don't want to do it that way. But it has been nice to have just a little bit of gloat time to like go and listen to other podcasts, listen to the coverage and have people that are either forced to eat their words, or some of them it's just funny watching people cotton on now. Like, at this point, they're just starting to. One of them being Shane Crawford in his podcast with Buddy, where he's kind of going. He actually gives Geelong an out and out apology at the start of the episode and goes, he's like, I just don't think I've been watching them closely enough. He's like, I just haven't analyzed their game clearly, because he's like, this is the first time I've sat down and watched it. And he goes, and he's like, after watching that performance, he's like, I just can't see how anybody beats that team. And this was nice to this is nice to hear. And now obviously it's there's anything can happen. But it's just nice and also funny to see people finally go, oh, hang on, wait, there's they're still good without Joel Selwood. Didn't he just retire like last year? It just feels like
Tom Hawkins.
Yeah, and also the going back to the soft draw and that, John. This is exactly what I knew would happen in the talking heads, where everyone goes, "Oh no, Geelong are going to go out in straight sets because they've had the soft run," and then suddenly we don't go out in straight sets, and suddenly the soft run's unfair. Like, this isn't media people, but people. It's like, it's like, well, which is it? Is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? But the point of that is, one of the things that's been nice is the people talking about the spread. The fact that it wasn't Jeremy Cameron necessarily. It wasn't Bailey Smith. Like, this is not my takeaway of this is not a super unique take. It's one that I've seen around, but it's very encouraging to me. It's one of the most encouraging things is that we got this result. And Jeremy Cameron kind of misfired. Like, he set the tone. Like, it wasn't a bad game. He did really, he couldn't not mark it in that first stretch there. Like, it just looked like he was about to break it open, but he couldn't quite get his kicking boots on. So you can add to that. You can kind of go, we could play this well, and Jeremy Cameron could come to life. We could play this well, and Max Holmes could get 40 touches. We could play this well, and Bailey Smith could get 40 touches. Like, there's all these other facets. And like, this goes to you, sort of, John, saying about people saying, "Oh, you've played your hand." The thing that I enjoy is it doesn't feel like we have. It felt like everything went right for our game plan. This was not sort of scrapped through in any way. The tagging went right. The efficiency went right. The defending went right. The delivery inside 50 went right. The conversion went almost right. But that's only our hand for this game, and I think that's the beauty of this group, this club, and this performance is it was such an even spread, and it will be a little different the next time. We're not going to see that performance again. I don't think. I think each one will be tailor made to the opposition we have. We'll take their assets away from them and lay some new cards on the table. And yeah, to have no one go over 30 disposals and yet absolutely dominate the game.
I was just looking up the disposals, and the top 10, there's 4 Cats players in the top 10 for disposals. And then you go over to tackles, there's 3 lines in the top 10 for tackles.
Yeah, and there's four Cats in the top 10 to disposals, but they're all in the bottom 5.
Bottom part,
The top 5 are Brisbane
Lines.
players. And then even with the goals, such a big spread of goals. Only 2 double goal kickers, like multiple goal kickers for the Cats.
There was
and yet
we second most amount of players who kick goals in a finals ever. So second, equal first, I think, actually. Equal first.
Yeah.
For 13 players.
Only two players kicked more than one, and yet we kicked the biggest score of the round. 12 individual goal assists. 12 different players with goal assists. Yeah, to me, this is not our full hand, is what I'm trying to say. Like, this is such an even team spread, but this is basically what we've got to offer. And then Paddy Dangerfield might have to rip it open if things go awry at some point. Like, we have other levers to pull still.
Yeah, it was so good to see.
And what's crazy is you had
that was such a team performance. So as you said, Sam, like there's no one they can point out that and say they had a terrible game. I'd say like there's not one player that you say had played a bad game. Everyone played really well, and on the other side, you can really pick out one player and say they had the best game of their career this night. This is why we won. It's just like, no, everyone played to their best strengths throughout that night, and that's why we won, because everyone just knew what the plan was, knew what the deal was, knew what the reward was, and it's like, let's just go out there, have fun, and play to our best ability, and they did. And as you said, Sam, we still got more of our hand to show, because, as I said, I don't think we've seen the best from our best players yet. I think their best is still capable of a lot more.
Well, it's just such that classic thing of like, you would look at the statistical performance of a bunch of those Cats and go, well, how are they going to really overcome the Lions when you have 4 Lions get over 30 disposals? When Zorko racks it up, when it was at Dunkley and Neil and company, getting lots of the footy. And it's like, there's just so many ways to skin a lion at the end of the day, and the Cats found a bunch of them. And I think we talked about this during the season as well, where, I know people were really quite angsty leading into this final series about, I don't really want to play Brisbane. I don't really want to play GWS. And my sort of feeling is, when you are a really good team and you consistently get beaten by another good team, like the Lions had won 4 out of the last 5, my kind of logic is, well, eventually that worm's going to turn, because I know we're not a terrible team. I don't, I think the only time I've really seen a team have the wood over someone is Geelong over Hawthorn during that long Kennett Curse stint. I think, I think the Giants to a degree probably do, but I still am of the mind that I would prefer, like if you were going to have to break the curse against the Giants, why not have it happen in finals? Why wouldn't it have happened in finals? And I sort of feel the same about the Brisbane game. I wasn't too worried about the previous history. It was more going, well, they're a very good team and we're going to be up against it. But my biggest takeaway, chaps, was actually, I'm glad that Cam Rayner stuff happened just before halftime, because to me, this is still a team. Like, I know we're a very experienced finals side, But you still look at like Lawson Humphreys, Connor O'Sullivan, Sean Manor, O'Sheen Mullen, Jack Martin, Shannon Neal, Ollie Dempsey. Like those guys have only played at most one finals series for the Cats. That was last year. And we won one and then lost one. So they'd played 2 finals previously. So that's a big chunk of the lineup. So I
Connor
love
O'Sullivan's
that
first
on
final,
this
sorry.
role, it looked like we were about to. So it looked like we were going to, absolutely smash them. And then all of a sudden you have it reversed and it's taken out of your hands. And it feels so unfair. The fans are so upset. The players are going to be upset in the moment. And, the media are all about Chris Scott's got to get him in control and he's got to say this and he's got to say that. And we all said on the couch, I don't reckon he'll address it that much. That was our guess, that it probably was barely spoken about in the rooms. And what I loved was that going from in control to having the game ripped out of your control, and then for this team to win it back so brilliantly and so comfortably, like I just thought that's a massive box checked for the Cats, because there's a parallel universe where a team in Geelong's position just goes on a full melt and loses control of the game, loses control of themselves. Brisbane get back into it. The Cats were having not a fucking bar of it. They just clamped down, took control of the game. So I was glad that it happened, to be honest, in the end when I reflected on it. I was like, I'm really glad this happened here. And the way Geelong responded was one of the most pleasing things that's happened all season, because I think there's previous iterations of not just Geelong's team, but different teams that they become headless chooks if something like this happens because of the unfairness of it. And eventually the right outcome was reached. Justice was done. And I actually felt like there was a lot of that this weekend. Chaps, the Pies knocking off the Crows after the Crows fans booed Isaac Quainer all night. The Suns, David Swallow coming on as the sub and kicking the winning point. The only, remaining member of the original Gold Coast Suns.
Yep. First
outfit.
draft pick.
Their very first draft pick. And in some ways, the Giants, I'm never going to say to the Hawks, that there's justice when they win, but there was something to the Giants have sort of flirted with these sort of performances all season, I feel like, where they've charged back into games and won late. And so they kind of were finally punished for being so up and down. So I really do think that in the end, the 4 teams that won on the weekend, like justice was done ultimately, and they deserved the wins.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know we've got absolute shitloads to talk about, Chaps, and we're going to have to save it for the Patreon, because I want to move into doing the player votes. We've got about 5-6 minutes left to talk about the individual players here for your votes. So your votes for players who stood out to us and did other stuff good too. I'll just reel mine off.
Please do.
And you reel yours off, and then we can have a quick discussion about a couple. I had Tom Stewart with my 1 vote. That goal he kicked will be my Viagra for a very long time. The Mark Blixarves gets my 2 votes, and Ollie Dempsey gets my 3. It was a really hard evening to do votes, especially after the Tom Stewart goal. So yeah, I went 1 Stewart, 2 Blixarves, and 3 to Dempsey. What about you, Chaps?
Have you got yours, Sam? Because I haven't got mine yet. You're on mute, Sam.
I do. I have my
Nice.
I've got the same players, slightly different order. I've got 1 to Mark Blixarves, 2 to Tom Stewart, 3 to O Dempsey. Funny that it's such an even spread of contributors, but we've landed on this. At least you and I have landed on the same 3, Jake. That's just more or less coincidental. There's quite a few that were very unlucky for me. Max Holmes could have easily got in there. I really wanted to sneak Tom Atkins in there. 42 pressure acts is nothing to sniff at.
My 1. God, it's tough because there's so many great moments, great plays, but I'm going to give my 1 to Jack Henry. I think he had a really solid night. Yeah, Jai Clark. 1 disposal.
100% efficient,
got goal assist. Yeah. No, Jack Henry. I just thought like every time it went, he was new. I'll talk about it later. Sorry, Jack Henry. my 1. My 2, Max
That's right,
Holmes.
yep.
And my 3 is Oliver Dempsey as well.
All right, then let's talk about the player who was the best on ground. I think that's an important one to get to because Ollie Dempsey was a player that we talked about the importance of maybe banishing a previous performance against the Lions. And we talked about how Geelong, our best 6 players versus their best 6, it's very comparable. Our middle 6 is pretty comparable. The bottom 6 and fringe guys and rookies, maybe that's where they've got an edge. But like on Friday night, so many of those players, and I guess Ollie Dempsey doesn't fit that because he's not a bottom 6 player. But we did talk about that he'd had a quiet prelim last year, that maybe the ferocity of it, the speed of the game, the size of the occasion sort of overawed him. But like that couldn't have been any further removed from the reality on Friday night, where he was just absolutely the most glorious version of himself. Like 25 touches, 3 goals. Magnificent.
Yeah, he was just incredible. And I thought these are my 2. There's 2 players that I've called will win us finals. One being Bailey Smith. So I'm yet to see that come to fruition, but I feel like that's on the cards in a big way. And the other one was Ollie Dempsey. I've patted myself on the back at innumerable times about the Stonks episode this season already, but I'm going to do it again.
We've both got one, don't we?
Yeah. That I sort of called. I said he would have a year where he would kick 25 to 30 goals. He's kicked 31 this year. I said he'd start averaging upwards of around that 20 disposals a game. And I also did say he's the kind of guy who can win your finals. He's a Friday Night Lights kind of player. And it was just so good. It was so good to see him do that. And again, not to be too gloaty, but it's been so good to watch the discourse around him online after he essentially Stephen Bradbury'd the rising star last year. Nobody gave him credit for being, so maybe the other 2 guys would have got it, but he's still the 3rd best. He's still elite in that in the category. And he was just so dismissed. And it's so so gratifying to see people go, like, who knew he had this in him? And it's kind of like he's been showing this all year in more or less reasonably consistent. That's just he's had some ups and downs here and there. But yeah, I thought in a game that was won by the team, he was the closest to being the game winner. I still don't think we had a game winner, but I thought he was far and away the closest we had.
He was pretty sensational all night. Just like we marvel at the way he can just run up and down that ground, any ground, and get to positions, and just go, oh, there's Dempsey, of course. And it's sort of, I just got to that point. Whenever a Cats player kicks it inside 50, a vacant inside 50, I know Dempsey's going to be there, ready to kick a goal. And 9 out of 10 times he's there, either soccering it through in a big game, at a big moment, or taking a mark, kicking an important goal which he did 3 times on the night. Like some of those goals he got were at pretty crucial moments of the game, and he just drags opposition players where they don't want to go, and he's just like, you don't follow me, I'm going to punish you. And I don't think once, but all 3 of his goals was there one Lions player next to him or who could keep up with him. It was just, definitely up there as one of his best games. But also I think he's still got like 56 games. He's only played 56 games. So he's still got so much more improvement, so much more growth, more strength to build up, and more footy smarts to get. But I tell you what, if he's already incredibly smart the way he goes about his game and how to get into those positions where he can get those easy goals. And another 50 plus games, he's going to be near impossible to stop the way he runs up and down that wing. And a lot of people now are saying, he should have been in the All-Australian squad on the wing. Is that, yeah, he should have been. Absolutely. And yeah, it's sort of like that thing. He's being so consistent, like the whole Cats team. Everyone's just like sort of forgotten about him. Hasn't really talked much about him. To be fair, the media do talk about him a fair bit. But I feel like this week they've really, really started to talk about him a lot more. But yeah, just this game was a hard game to not give him the 3 votes. Basically, he was easily the best out of a very close pack.
His soccer goal at the back post was absolutely incredible. Sambo, you and I have just been comparing, like trying to find comparisons to, the 2025 Geelong Cats to the 03-04 Arsenal Invincibles. And we just talked about Ollie Dempsey as Robert Pires, and Pires was so often there at the back post. I mean, he kicked a lot of ripper goals from distance as well, but there's a bit of Pires, there's a bit of Freddie Ljungberg. Freddie Ljungberg was always hustling at the back post. I put the tweet out, actually, and there are a few other people who were like, this is a great idea. This is a great conversation. So there was some good contributions from people on Twitter about which players were which. But yeah, I think he must have a higher percentage of his goals must be those soccer volleys than maybe anyone else in the history of the game.
That was incredible, though. That was incredible. I took off and did a lap of Johnny's kitchen. Only twice have I done that to a goal. That one and the Gary Rowan after the siren against Bulldogs goal.
Against the Dogs.
Was that also at my house?
Yeah,
I think it was.
No, that was here, but it was still a lap of the kitchen.
No, that's right. I think Jake was at
in
my
the
place.
Depths of COVID.
Yeah, and it was a silent lap of the kitchen because
incredible
I had sleeping children on the couch, and I did a silent lap of jubilation around the house.
I remember a few gifts me and Jake sent you. Just constantly for a few minutes after that.
The rest of the players who got votes and did other stuff good too, we're going to hold them over to Patreon because we are going to start bleeding into the AFLW game time here. We don't want to do that. So we'll pocket our thoughts on the other players who got our votes and we'll talk about them on Patreon, which means we can now pivot into round 4 discussion. The AFLW are on the board. The Cats went into Sunday afternoon's must-win clash with an undefeated Bombers team at Windy Hill. They had new faces in the lineup. Sienna Tallaridi and Lexi Gregor replaced stalwart captain Meg McDonald and an under-the-weather Claudia Gunjaka. Gabby Featherston also jumped into the team as well because Melissa Bragg was also out. As they've done all season, the Cats started hot. They piled on vicious pressure, moved the ball swiftly, and dominated territory to lead 2-5-17 to 1 straight 6 at quarter time. The Cats booted an early second quarter goal to extend their lead, but thereafter, Essendon worked their way back into the game, and alarm bells were seriously starting to ring for Cats fans, at least they were for me, when Essendon's Georgia G goaled to reduce the gap to a couple of kicks midway through the quarter. However, unlike previous weeks, the Cats found an answer. Jacqueline Parry goaled just before halftime to make the gap 19 points at the break. And after that, Geelong seemed to settle. They were in control. Their backline offered a more assured performance when under duress. The midfield pressured and extracted the ball at a season's best level. And in the second half, they capitalised with more accuracy up forward. With Georgie Prasparkas kicking her game into overdrive, Geelong cruised home to an 8-10-58 to 4-3-27 victory. Prasparkas adding the game's final goal after the siren, which was just incredibly fitting. The season for now, lads, is back on track. It hasn't started well, of course. They had their backs against the wall against an undefeated team on the road. How did you feel about the performance, Johnny? The nature of it?
This was definitely the best response we could have asked for. Like, this was near what just what we needed, really. This is the response us fans needed, and I'd say deserved. Would deserved a good response from the Cats. And I think to do it against a team that was undefeated at their home in tricky conditions was spectacular. And it wasn't, again, it's sort of like the men's team playing as a whole team. That's what the women's team did as well. They were united as a team and going, last week was unacceptable. Last week was not what we are about. And then they showed Essendon what the Cats are about. And it was fantastic. So glad to see it happen. And it's what I think the Cats should be delivering every single week. Like, all the stars shone this game. The lower ranked players putting that extra effort, even the debutant players. I thought those two were, played their part really well. Didn't really do anything outstanding, but I don't think they didn't need to. They just went out there, got that experience, first game experience, and handled themselves really well. So well on to them. The only thing that could have gone better was accuracy in front of goal. But when they went out and delivered this performance, it didn't really matter. And it was a 4-quarter performance as well. So it wasn't just 1 or 2 quarters of fierce pressure and good control. It was from start to the very end. The Cats were just in control of this game. And it was what we wanted, what I wanted, and we got it. And it was just relief, I think, was one word that comes to my mind when I was watching. I was like, just relieved that they found that gear, found that spark. And I think a part of that was probably Meg McDonald getting dropped for this game. I think that was a pretty brave move by the coach and the coaching panel. And it could also send out a bit of a warning, go, if you're not playing, we're going to drop you. If we're dropping the captain, then anyone could get dropped. And I think that also would have sparked a few players to really bury their heads in and get going. And as I said, this was the perfect response after 3 really disappointing weeks.
Yeah, it'll be fascinating to see what, we'll probably never know exactly what went into all that decision making about Meg McDonald. It wouldn't surprise me at all if Megatron had some sort of, not a say in it necessarily, but I don't think your captain gets dropped unless the captain says something about it to say, look, let's be honest here. What would you do if I wasn't the captain, or whatever it might have been? Like, that would be pretty stunning to me. And in the interviews I've heard from Meg McDonald, she seems like a very self-aware kind of person, which is why she makes such a great captain of this team. So, Sambo, every week in the Patreon preview for our subscribers, we outline one thing we want to see from the team going into that weekend. You asked for better delivery inside 50. Did Secret Cat Santa deliver?
Absolutely. This was, this was what was on my list and more. It was one of those things we talked about, a whole heap of issues, little things that needed tuning up, some overhauls, all that stuff. But the thing, if we could only ask for one thing, I felt like that delivery inside 50 was the thing that could at least win us games while we worked on that other stuff. If we could tune up the delivery inside 50, make it a bit more varied, make it a bit more vicious, a little bit more kick inside 50 with a little more intent to a lead, to a player, not just to gain territory towards our goal, like to actually hit up a player specifically to where they needed it and where they'd like to take it. And I honestly did not expect it to improve this much this quickly. Like, that was, to me, night and day compared to the way we had been delivering it inside 50. Sort of across the board, but particularly I thought Nina Morrison, she didn't have the best disposal efficiency overall, but I thought when she was kicking it inside 50, I felt like she was picking out some really good gaps and then hitting up leads, keeping it low. Prasparkas also. Amy McDonald as well. She's a player that I have knocked for her kicking. Love everything about her game, but I do feel like her kicking can sometimes leave a little it just makes me nervous, I suppose. It feels a little dicey, but I thought she was delivering really well. And Jackie Parry as well is one of those ones. She didn't necessarily have a lot of setups, but she's one of those players, a bit like I mean, a completely different type of player. But I remember a similar discussion with Shea, where we were saying, do you want her on the end of it, or do you want her kicking it? Because she seems equally good at both. And Parry, I thought, I feel like Parry's really coming into her own this season a little bit. And some of those times when it was her turn to deliver it, it was just really, really dangerous. And just across the board, I thought that even if we hadn't played this well across the board, I feel like that sort of one element in particular could have just got us enough of a look to scrape over the line. And I think, again, going next week, if some other areas fall down, if we're throwing some different challenges, if we can kick it inside 50, if we can beat up in contested ball and the center again, and deliver it inside 50 like that, then I think we're going to go a long way to at least having a chance, even when the other teams may be playing better across the ground. And I suppose I can't remember what you were hoping to sort of discuss next, Jake, but I think coupled with that is our ability to lock it inside the 50 as well. We've just covered the men's and didn't get to talk about the tackles inside 50, which I thought was pretty impressive with 14, but the girls showed them up again with 19 tackles inside 50. So that's not exactly the delivery, I suppose. I've snuck in a couple of talking points there, but I did just think those two things coupled together made it. Like I think our conversion, like you said, John, probably the conversion rate, the actual scoring accuracy can now get worked upon. But if we're giving ourselves this many looks and keeping it in there, that gives us time to work on the scoring efficiency.
I think the thing that my biggest takeaway was sort of to do with the changes that were made at selection, which I thought were right. I actually thought Sienna Talaridi came in and looked pretty good. I thought Lexi Gregor did some nice things. Those two players in particular, I thought coming in they just gave us a different feel down back. And obviously you think that Claudia Gunjaka will be straight back into the side, but it's going to pose a really interesting question about the Meg McDonald equation, because I really did like what both of them offered. I thought they were pretty calm under pressure for the most part. But more broadly, it made me think about how tricky it is when you're a team that started down the bottom, and when Dan Lowther took over this team, they were down the bottom, and how you build over the course of multiple seasons and you bring new faces in and some faces leave and you tweak the game style. We get fitter, we get more focused on defensive pressure, and then that grows into what's our attacking identity then. We've restricted the points. Now, how do we score them? And you see all these things and you get to the cusp of getting into a grand final in 2023. So you're almost there. You feel like you're almost at the mountaintop. And then you get stuck in this interesting, you can get into this interesting phase of team development where it's like, we're almost there. And so the selection calls and the recruitment calls and the delistings are under that much more pressure and sort of intensity. Because now, when you're at the mountaintop or close to it, it feels really hard to say to certain players, actually, this week it's not your turn. Or this season, we're not offering you a contract. Or actually, we need to change your role. Or changes to the game style and tweaking what we do, whether it's defensively or in attack. Because you're nervous that, well, do you dance with the partner you brought? Or do you maybe look to change things up? And so I really rated how the Cats did things this week, because it is hard when you feel like you're so close to then know what the next steps should be. Do we keep backing the process and back that the results will turn? Do we make a change in personnel? And I think they pulled the right levers. I don't think they changed much in terms of their game style and approach. I just think they executed it better this week. It all came together. The pressure turned into clearances, turned into disposal and attacking opportunities, which turned into goals. So backing that part of the process, we've got a big tick. And then making the selection calls also improved. So it's a tough spot, but that was sort of a takeaway for me as I reflected on it, going, gosh, it's hard. Like, it's sort of easy to swing the axe when things are not going well. It's harder to do it when you feel like you're about to break through and go on a bit of a run and become one of the big clubs. So yeah, just a bit of a nod, I guess, to those players, including Meg McDonald, for being a part of the process, I guess, and being team players. And I did see both Claudia Gunjaka and Meg McDonald up in the coaching box, which was good. And just for the Cats backing their process, for backing it in. They didn't change anything too drastically. They know what we know, which is if they execute the plan well enough, they can be right up there. And on the weekend, it was well and truly good enough. So yeah, I was very proud. Chaps, very proud of them. I thought they did absolutely brilliantly. And when they needed that settling goal, they found it. So yeah, I was over the moon with it.
Definitely.
Yeah, me too.
That's my big rattling point.
I thought pretty much everywhere we needed to win, we won. Because I mean, not only did we win the contested ball and like overall got beaten in clearances, but smashed them in the center clearances. So that's all good. We're also up against it, 8 free kicks to 21 their way. So that made it interesting as well. But then on top of that, we also outmarked them by a mile, 44 to 23. So it just felt like, and honestly, credit to the Bombers to like hang on, because you feel like a lesser team would have been blown off that park in the second quarter. Yeah. So this isn't about the opposition, but just credit where credit's due. I thought we absolutely dominated them. And it's probably only because of our slight inaccuracy, but also their determination to go, hang on, no, we're the unbeaten team here. You know what I mean? Like it felt like they were really trying to reassert their reality in patches there, where they were like, suddenly you'd see them play and you go, oh yeah, that's how they've been winning like so many games thus far. So yeah, I just thought it was a domination by us, and credit to the Bombers, and that also means I don't think we should take away from this game that they just lay down and we ran away with it. Like this was it was a fight all day, despite what the scoreboard looked like and what it could have looked like. I think it was four quarters, which is the other thing we've wanted. We did not fade.
Yeah, they did their pressure rating stuff, and they said the Cats are at 240 pressure ratings at the moment. Like that is huge, and they're like, and Essendon's also at 211. They're like, any other game, 211 is hugely impressive. I said, so this is how much pressure is out there. The Cats 240 plus, Essendon 211. As you said, it's not like Essendon just laid over and like, we're done. They also fought to the bitter end, and they never gave up. So that makes it that more impressive that Cats were like, no, we're not going to do what happened to us the first 3 weeks and get overawed or get that pressured here. We're going to stick fat and we're going to run over the top of you and not let you have that sniff of victory. We're not going to let you have that sniff of there's an opening here, there's a chance. And that was the most pleasing. And I think it was a harsh lesson that round 3 loss to Swans. I think they would have gotten a few hard truths told to them point blank by coaches and, maybe from teammates. So for them to be able to come out and then prove and show what they're really made of, it was really just super pleasing. And as I said, the big stars, Morrison, Prasparkas, Amy McDonald, they all stood up and were back to their absolute best, which was also just so pleasing to see those 3 just dominate this game.
Couple of points. I love that we finally, after this is our 5th year of doing it, we finally got someone use the eternal footy phrase, stick fat. We stuck fat with the process. It's taken us 5 years, but finally
No one said it.
someone brought it out. I'm
Hey!
sure that like Mick Malthouse or someone has used that on ABC Grandstand at some point.
Yeah.
During like a twilight West Coast v Richmond game, buried in the last time slot of the weekend. Just got to stick fat with the process here. No, I loved it. The other thing, just quickly, a weird stat that stuck out to me: 16 marks inside 50. That's double our season average. They had 1, so I think that's a lovely little, a little cherry on top of the discussion about the delivery inside 50 was that marking. Contested marks too, 9 contested marks to 1. We averaged 5.3 on the season. So, all right, chaps, let's do votes here for players who stood out to us and did other stuff good too. And we'll talk about maybe our top vote getter. We'll see how it goes, and then save the rest for the Patreon. But I went 1 vote for Nina Morrison. Sambo, you hit on it. Like, the disposal efficiency doesn't necessarily show, but I thought she used the ball really well. Jackie Parry was my 2 for some of the reasons we've talked about already. That Georgie Prasparkas couldn't go past her. 3 votes. Absolutely outstanding. What about you, Johnny? Or Sam, if John doesn't have his votes?
Amy McDonald.
How dare you?
Could
you possibly insinuate that?
Amy McDonald gets my 1, and my 2 is Jackie Parry, and my 3 is also Georgie Prasparkas.
Sambo?
Yeah, my 3 is Georgie Prasparkas, so I'll rip that band-aid off. My 1 is Nina Morrison. My 2 is Michaela Bowen.
Nice. All right, then. Well, let's spend the last couple of minutes here on the public show talking about Georgie Prasparkas, because I don't know. She has had many good games, I feel like, against the Bombers, but this was at another. She's one of those players for me, chaps. This is how I'd say it, where people are always, it's a bit like the Bailey Smith thing, where people are like, oh, he's so amazing. He's so good. He's so good. And I'm always going like, what about Tom Atkins? What about this player? What about that player? Why aren't you talking about this player? It's the same a bit with the Prasparkas factor, where I'm always like, what about Bowen? What about Morrison? What about McDonald? But this was the weekend where I was like, holy shit. We have like one of the league's best 5 players. She was absurd. Like 33 disposals, 7 clearances, 3 tackles, 4 marks, and she kicks 2 goals too. She could have had 4 goals. 100% time on ground for the Cats. For Georgie Prasparkas, she did not leave the field. Like, she was superhuman on the weekend. That's why she got my 3 votes.
Yeah, and she was just an absolute freak on this game. Like, I feel like she had a personal issue with the way she had played the first 3 weeks, going not up to her own personal standard, and then for her to come out and play the way she did, like, she was just in absolutely everything, and you just can't help but not watch and be impressed by her ability to just find a ball, get the ball out, evade tackles, and then deliver it inside 50, or deliver it to a player in a really good spot, or take a great contested mark and then use it so intelligently. Like, she is, as you said, she's up there as, if not one of the best players in the league, and she showed it on this game. She was just absolutely outstanding, and so glad that she's a Cat, because she is freakish. I do remember one time Meg McDonald talking to her at training, and she said, Georgie, you're just too good for AFL. And I was like, we really haven't seen it visualized just yet, fully to the full extent of what Georgie Prasparkas can do. And I think we've just about seen what, at her best, at her angriest, at her most determined and focused, it was sensational.
Yeah, and not for nothing, it was a team performance too. So her stat line isn't in a team that was underperforming, and she had to lift it. So it's kind of makes it even more impressive how many stats she's in the lead or in the top 3 for. Just want to do a quick rundown, if I may, of so second for goals, first for disposals, second for kicks, first for handballs in the Cats, second on the ground for handballs. She was in the top 3, so she's third for marks. She didn't get up there in tackles, but she still had 3. She led the game for clearances, led the game for meters gained, led the game for uncontested possessions, and led the game for contested possessions. And like that, the list goes on. I could keep going here. She's pretty much top 2 for 90% of the stats.
Complete performance. It was a complete performance. I think is yeah. She was amazing. So
possessions.
Yeah, exactly. You even go to the intercept possession, the possession the stat she doesn't need to have, and she's still in the top 2 for that.
Yeah. And then gets 8 score involvements.
It's crazy.
I'll just say 2 chaps, and maybe we can continue this chat because we're out of time in the public show, so we'll carry on the conversation. Just as a hint of what we're going to go and talk about, along with our other sort of players who we voted for, just that there's an argument that you've got 7 or 8 Cats players who you would class as inexperienced Geelong Cats players currently in the side. If you look at Alexis Gregor and Sienna Tallaridi, they're the obvious ones, just debuting on the weekend. But then you've got Emma Kilpatrick in her first year with the Cats, Kate Kenny in her second year, but I reckon she's only played about 10, 11 games, 12 games maybe. Erica Fowler makes it 5. Piper Dunlop, Bella K. Smith, Chantal Mason. There's 8 players who are all players who probably have, somewhere between maybe 15 games at most at the Cats. So, that's sort of probably going under the radar a little bit. Like this team is currently probably carrying the expectations of 2023, but it's a very, very different looking list at the moment. Like, the Cats have cycled some new faces in, and it'll be very interesting to see what this team looks like by week 12 versus what it's looked like in the first month. So maybe we'll get into your thoughts on that when we go over to Patreon. But for now, we're going to say goodbye to the public audience. We appreciate you for tuning in. Please like and subscribe on your favorite podcast or video viewing app. Rate and review. Those 5-star ratings really help us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So if you chuck us a 5-star rating and you write a little review, we'll read it out on the show. Maybe you can pop a question in there for us. Something you'd like us to talk about. All right. We'll be back next Tuesday. We'll have a more detailed look at Geelong and their qualifying finals opponent. We'll do that as the AFL men's component of the show. In the public part, we'll also recap Geelong's AFLW clash with the Tigers as the Cats look to get their season well and truly back on track. Until then, thanks so much for watching and listening. Go Cats!
Go Cats!
Go Cats!